personnel, finance, putting this whole thing together in a plan. You know, so with that, I talked enough.
I think we changed the job title to town manager / marshal, and teach him how to use a grader.
All right, good on.
Yeah, the right to remain silent.
Yeah.
What do you think your biggest challenge is gonna be coming to a town as small as this?
I was in Tulia, Texas. Tulia, Texas is 5,000 people. It used to have 7,000 people. It's on the way down. Agriculture is the main base there. The Ugalala Aquifer is going down. You know, the thing about your environment is you've got a much better economy than I saw there, or I saw in Raton. Colorado Springs has a record tourism year. I'm presuming you guys got some benefit out of that. You know, you've got a place that people really want to live. People aren't drooling at a chance to live in Tulia, Texas. But yeah, that was 38 employees, and that included an electric utility. I had to do the city clerk's job. You know, I was out with the crews. I did a lot of engineering. We couldn't afford an engineer, so I got out there and we had a drainage crisis. The state engineer was going to make us breach a dam. And, you know, I did a whole bunch of analysis and we finally hired a professional engineer, and I wasn't that far off. But yeah, you know, in a small city, you learn how to do everything. And, you know, that would be very valuable experience for you. And I grew up a blue collar kid. I mean, my dad was a carpenter, construction superintendent. I worked construction and put my way through school. You know, so I've always had a rapport with the guys that are out there working. In Hobbs and Gallup, we put in a community cleanup program where the executive staff went out. We just took all the city equipment, went through the town, and the rule was anything the public could get to the curb, we'd take it. And we got a photo somewhere in Hobbs of myself and 3 department heads picking up a Volkswagen, getting it into. Luckily, it's just the body, you know, no transmission, no. But, you know, we were out there with them. And in this sort of environment, I mean, if you're just gonna sit there in City Hall all the time, you want to be out there. If somebody's doing something, you want to be out there. And I've been there. I grew up getting dirty. You know, it doesn't bother me.
Well, good, you'll have that opportunity there.
Yeah, well, I'm getting old though.
Just to recognize Trustee Quinn and one of our committee members, Mac Crone, has joined us. Do they have any questions?
Well, I'm satisfied with the other interview.
Even Tulia, Texas seems gigantic compared to us. So how will your experience scale down to our constraints?
I think you're worried too much about that. A budget is a budget, personnel is personnel. I mean, everything you guys are doing here, I've been involved with before. It's just a question of scale. And, you know, I don't think that's going to be that big a problem. You know, if you could give me a specific worry you have about it, but generically, I really can't answer that any further than that.
A specific example would be hiring personnel, department heads for under the budget constraints that we have. qualified people?
Well, I had my mentor, my first city manager I worked for in Longmont was an attorney, but he worked for 6, 7 years for the personnel department in the city and county of Denver. And I worked for him for 4 years. During that period, I was president of the Colorado Public Personnel Directors Association. And we went through personnel rules, we went through litigation, we went through everything. I recruited an electric director during that period, I recruited a police chief, and I had an expert who was coaching. And the one thing about whether you're big or little, the laws are the laws. And that's one of the biggest challenges in a small town is the lawsuit that we got in Farmington or Hobbs or cities with 4, 5, 6, 700 employees can be the same exact lawsuit you get with 3 or 5. That's a situation where, having been in that big environment, I saw a lot more crises. During my career, I've had 4 city employees be shot to death during my tenure. I hope I never live through that again. But crisis management is a skill that I learned through that process. And interestingly, none of them were uniformed officers. All of these type of things, I think I can turn the tables around and say, being involved at that higher level gives me tools that, it's a lot easier sometimes when I wrote the personnel rules in Raton Public Service. I mean, we had 18 employees. And half of them were electric linemen and groundmen. But we took the other rules from the big city and we just narrowed them down. And that worked pretty well because the laws that you needed to meet were still in there. But I think it's a lot better to do that than go the other way, where you've worked in a small town in your career and suddenly you go 400 or 500 employees. The learning curve there is a heck of a lot steeper than going big to small.
So I see you worked with Sam Mamet.
Well, way back, way back when neither one of us had a gray hair in our head. Ken Boucher was the executive director of the league. But the executive director of the New Mexico League, Bill Fulcinetti, supervised Sam when they both worked for the Pennsylvania League. And so Sam has kept up with me all these years because when those league directors get together, there's only 50 of them. And I don't know how many times Bill told me, well, Sam and I were talking about you again. So. But yeah, Sam's a really good league director. And I've called him on a couple things, but yeah, I know if I get in a bind on something. I mean, Sam and I worked together in the late 70s. And there's nothing like relationships. And my old mentor, who's retired now, the attorney, he went on to be city attorney in Arvada, Lakewood, and he retired he was the guy that put together the city and county of Brookfield. But if I call him up and I mention, he says, how's it going? I'll say, well, I got this one little problem. He says, well, tell me about it. And I get free legal advice.
Free is good. Yeah, put that on the budget.
Anything else? I think I'm good. Anything else for us?
No, the big thing I've been struggling about, we talked about the administrative committee is, how much time there is. And I've been kind of going through all this and, I'm kind of thinking that 624 hours over 6 months, which would be 24 hours a week. I think the fact that I'm right here local and I can be here, you know, fairly quickly. You know, that might be a way to go. You know, we're in the process of buying a new home, and I'm gonna have plenty of honeydews. You know, so I don't wanna be sitting up here just to sit here. And, you know, that's the interesting part of this to me, is figuring out, you know, what your job description is, how much time it's gonna take, how you're gonna get this stuff done. I think it's an advantage to be 30 minutes away. And I'm real flexible with that, but, you know, I don't wanna work a 40-hour, you know, maybe when the first couple of weeks, I would work a lot of time to get the package together. But, then, you know, I was just thinking of doing a contract that had a set number of hours over 6 months. And then the mayor and I, or whoever, would work with that as we went. But my goal isn't to get a full-time job out of this. You know, I'd rather work while I'm here and do all the other stuff when I'm not here, so. But I'm available, and that's pretty important in this situation.
Well, and with that honey-do list, you might want to be up here, so you never know.
Well, I've been in that situation all my life, you know, you play the two against each other.
Well, we talked about some of our honey-do list, if you will, hiring. But we got marshals, potential marshal, potential public works. We have a budget coming through. We have the DOLA contract portion services that are due, standing up policies and procedures for ordinances of changing over to this. So I understand you're kind of talking about it in the way of hours. Instead, I look at it in the terms of to-dos, that these things, nobody expects to punch a clock, but if these tasks are done, we can put together an all-encompassing list.
Yeah, well, I just wanted you to know I was thinking creatively about that, because I would think over the 6-month period, you're gonna have feast and famine there.
Agreed.
And, you know, you've gotta have some way to deal with that. But in the administrative committee, I really didn't get a good handle on that. In fact, they were kind of saying, well, what do you think? I've got going, I don't know anything about your list.
Right.
You know, so, but, you know, I'm fairly flexible in that regard. We do have to be gone for a week in October. Although watching the news lately, we're going to see my son in New York City. Kind of, you know, but anyway. I can be flexible.
I appreciate that. And we also have so that's a lot of what we just talked about was the manager side, and then the clerk side of it, that slash clerk part. We've got part-time, currently it's working through that, but getting a lot of those procedures set up is gonna be a big part of it.
Well, the clerk has a set calendar, but yeah, I've done minutes. You know, it's not a big deal. I mean, I'm certainly glad when other people do them, and I appreciate them doing well, but then I can do it.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
I appreciate your thinking outside the box and trying to come up with a good solution to what we have, a flexible solution.
Well, I see it going like this. That's what I see, so. Good, I want to take all your stuff.
Well, how do you pronounce your last name?
Doc?
Well, thank you very much for coming back up.
No problem, appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I'm good.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you. Okay, who do we have next? Is Guy?
Mr. John Pick.
What was his first name?
Dan.
Dan. Pardon me, John.
Dan, go ahead.
We'll get this right here at the podium.
Okay. Good evening.
Hey,
This is John Pick. If you would like to just tell us a little bit about your background for those of us who are not on the admin committee.
Okay. I have been a city manager or in similar positions for about 30 years. Most recently, I was city manager in North Glen, Colorado for 2 years. All the positions that I've held, starting in Hope Mills, North Carolina, which is about a 7,000 population, all the way up to North Glen, which is about 37,000 population. I started my career as a actually as an assistant personnel director, and then I worked in personnel for about 7 years before becoming a city manager for the first time. I recently retired last year with North Glen and have been working as a consultant for the past year. And so if I was to be selected for this position, this would be the first time that I would be serving in an interim position.
And just to let you know, the board has your resume and the written responses that we had done prior to the first round. So with that, board, do you have questions for Mr. Peck?
I just looked at Tyler because he usually has a question.
Similar to my previous question, through your interview process and through the application process and writing your responses and such, you've had the opportunity to learn a little bit about Green Mountain Falls history with city manager and some of the twists and turns therein. And wondering what your thoughts on where we've been and where we're headed based on the information that you have.
The information I have is that I think there's kind of a feeling that the first attempt was not handled exactly correctly, and that maybe a little bit moved too fast. And so I think that this time your approach is more appropriate. Going through the process of hiring an interim, and then giving the interim an opportunity, working with the community and the board to give the community a better understanding of what the advantages of a town manager would be. So I think that process is more likely, I think, to ultimately be successful. There are a lot of advantages to the town manager form or having a position as a town manager clerk. So I think and if the community has a better understanding of those advantages, and maybe a little bit of history with it, with the interim, then I think it'll sell itself.
So, looking back through all the way to Hope Mills, even a town of 7,500 seems gigantic compared to our town. How do you see your experience scaling down to fit within our constraints?
Yeah, I think the biggest single challenge for me is going to be accommodating to the fact that there really is very little staff. Now, however, I will say that in the positions that I've held, I've never worked in a city that was that big that I didn't have to do some things myself. Including, drafting ordinances for review by the city attorney, drafting resolutions, memos, reports, and all of that. And of course, overseeing the work of other staff, which means you have to be familiar with what they're doing and so on. Now, I will say also, I told the committee that a little anecdote, when I was in Hope Mills, one winter we had an ice storm, and the Public Works Department was kind of understaffed at the time, and we needed to get out there. So I got up on the back of the truck. At that time, we used a manual method of putting salt and sand on the bridges. So that's what I did, because it needed to be done. But I think that, I enjoy and I didn't necessarily enjoy throwing the salt and sand on the bridges, but I do enjoy, working with the public, interacting with the public, which I've had to do in all the jobs. And really tending to the day-to-day activities. Now, of course, there's a lot of detail that is involved in running a city, whether it's 600 population or 30,000 population. And so I would have to obviously learn a lot of that detail, but I'm more than willing to do that.
One of the characteristics of small mountain town of Green Mountain Falls is the personalities and the individuals and such. It's easy to get distracted by the conversation where you have to balance out the mountainous amount of work that needs to be done to hammer out those details, operate a municipality. Tell me a little bit about your abilities and your tactics to maintain that personal relationship with the community and staff and board of trustees versus the balance of getting the work done and getting things done.
A couple of things. In Northland, for example, what I did was I established a monthly schedule of meeting with the members of the city council and the mayor more frequently than that. But I tried to make sure on an individual basis, one-on-one, I met, and there were nine members of the council, including the mayor. And so it was a little challenging, but that was something that I tried to do, because otherwise, if you didn't do that, you didn't get a chance to really establish personal relationships with them. With the community, they had most of the relationships with the community were through the members of the city council. Although obviously you met, you talked, and members of the community would call and they'd come in to see and so on. But when the members of the city council would hold ward meetings, there were 4 wards, and so I would attend those ward meetings along with other members of the staff, and we'd have an opportunity. Although the member of the council was in charge, a lot of the questions were directed to the staff, and so we had an opportunity to interact directly with the members of the public. It's a balancing act. You can't spend all your time in the office, and in fact, I don't like to do that. I much prefer to get out and be seen in the community. I attended a lot of the events that were being held in the community. I worked as a kind of a staff helper on helping some of the events as well, with parking and those types of things. So, I think it's really, and then there are times when you will say, I got to do something, and so you have to tend to your business as well.
And I think we asked this at the committee level interview as well, but how do you see over the 6 months your focus on different efforts shifting over that term?
I think in my understanding, of course, that's subject to change based on once I get here and have a better understanding, that the first thing to do would be to understand what needs to be in the transition plan, which is required by the contract that you have with DOLA. So I want to make sure that I understand what DOLA's expectations are with that and start working on that transition plan. Also, meeting individually or with members of the board of trustees to make sure that I understand what your expectations are, what you'd like to see done, and when and how. And then I think, putting together the draft report, which would involve, I think, also some community meetings and getting some input and helping to also educate the public as well. finally drafting the report, getting the report to the board for your concurrence in the draft form. And then I think holding, towards the end of the 6-month period, holding a public hearing or however, whatever the timing is when DOLA wants to see that transition plan. Having a public hearing so that the public has an opportunity to comment on the draft before the board finalizes it. In the meantime, it's going to be necessary to start the recruitment process for the town manager clerk. And that's going to have to take, start in fairly early in the process in order to accomplish the goal that I think the board has set out, that you'd like to have a month's overlap between the interim and the manager. So going to have to make sure that we have a fairly early commitment on the part of the board that yes, we're going to go ahead with this plan, and then we can start the recruitment process. It's going to be kind of tough, as I mentioned in the committee meeting. It's going to be kind of tough to go through the recruitment process, hire a manager, bring that person on, and have a month overlap in the 6-month period of time.
So there's two parts to the title, town manager, clerk. And when you take a look at that list of things, the budget, hiring, potentially a marshal, potentially a public works supervisor, the ordinance updates that are going to be required, the transition plan you mentioned, then the day-to-day clerk things, the business license and dog license and the board meetings with minutes and things like that. How do you see the time being split apart?
Yeah, I think that it would be reasonable to expect, especially at the beginning, that this would be a full-time job, 40 hours a week, plus attending town meetings and so on. It may turn out later on in the process that 40-hour-a-week commitment does not prove to be necessary. But I think it's reasonable to assume at the beginning that that's what's going to be necessary, because it is. It's going through a hiring process is not easy, and it does take time, especially to do it right. And I think both for a marshal and for a public works supervisor, and then going through the process for the interim town manager clerk. So it's going to be busy. And then going through the ordinances, understanding what needs to be changed. It's going to take a lot of time commitment for both the manager, the interim manager, and the board to review all that and try to make sure we got it right.
Question?
What do you, well, yes, I do. What hours do you see yourself working in this?
Well, as I said, full-time, and being here, Monday morning to Friday afternoon. I would plan to commute back home on the weekends, but I plan to be here during the week.
What kind of questions do you have for us? What else would you like to know?
Yeah, wondering if you felt that maybe you talked about this, if the board would be interested while you have an interim manager in a strategic planning session and trying to put together a strategic plan. The advantage, I think, of that would be, first of all, to make sure that it's clear what the goals are during the interim, but also to kind of develop a work plan for the manager so that when that person actually comes on board, they've got some, they can kind of get on the ground running. If there's, I don't know whether the town we've talked about that or whether they'd be interested in trying to do that while you've got an interim.
I saw that you had that on your resume, and I think that's always a smart course of action.
Yeah, I mean, it paid big dividends for us in Northland because there were a lot of projects going on, and want to make sure that there's an understanding on the part of the staff as to what the council felt were the important projects and how important and when and all that.
think that would be very helpful and would help to have us prioritize what all those tasks are. And additionally, I think while a strategic plan is appealing, it's unfortunately just one more thing that's been added to our pile of projects. Whether that be hiring or interim or revising ordinances or whatever have you. So I think we have a daunting pile, and maybe the first thing that we pull off of that would be something like a strategic plan.
Okay, good. How does the town communicate with your citizens now? I know that was one of the things that was in the job description, and also would be, I think, key for interim, and I'd like to know how you communicate now.
Well, we have, of course, 2 places that we officially post. We also have live streaming, and meetings are open. What would you like to see changed or improved in a plan?
Well, I don't want to say I want to see anything improved, although whether it's what you're doing now is effective. But I think the website is a good tool, and I looked at it, and I think it definitely could use some help and some updating. So that would be one way. And in terms of communicating with the board, what I did in Northland every week, at the end of the week, I put together a memo that I sent by email to all the members of the city council there, just kind of bringing them up to date on what's going on, what's been happening. That was effective with the council. And it's possible that could also be placed on the website to communicate to the public. I think meetings, particularly in a smaller community, I think you might be just having some, I don't want to say regular meetings necessarily, but periodic meetings with the public that would be effective as well. Now, I noticed in looking through the comprehensive plan that one of the elements of that is that, or the principles rather, is that new development should pay for itself. I don't know how much during the 10 years that the comp plan, since the comp plan was written, whether you've really had a chance to try to put that into effect, and whether you've had any problems with that principle, because it can lead to some fairly steep costs for development.
If I might respond to that, the most significant new development that's happened in Green Mountain Falls in the past couple decades has been this building that the town was responsible for. So it's a little hard to burden ourselves with the responsibilities of that. We're fairly stagnant. There's not a whole lot of growth opportunities just because we're landlocked. The only potential opportunities would be annexation or something like that. So we've not really faced that.
Okay. Those are really the questions that I had for you.
Maybe Trustee Quinn, anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate you making the trip again.
Oh, well, sure, my pleasure.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
See you again.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, sir.
Gordon, do you need a breath before the next one? He's waiting, so,
No, let's go for it.
all right. I'm gonna get my papers in order here, and then I will go get it. All right.
What's the last gentleman's first name? Was it Guy Peck?
That was John.
John Peck.
Right here. This is Guy Patterson?
Yep.
This is over.
Okay. Well, how's everybody doing? Citizens?
Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you guys for your time, so you appreciate it. My name is Guy Patterson, Colorado native. I live in the Ville Valley right now. When Sam Mammoth forwarded me this a couple weeks ago, month ago, whatever it might have been, and we talked a little bit about it, it was really exciting to learn about what you guys are going through and then come and interview and see where you guys are in the process and read more about your town and everything like that. It's exciting. And I really believe in what you guys are trying to accomplish. I said this during the interview, and I'd like to reiterate it. I think what you guys are trying to accomplish is important. It's a good way to manage a government, large or small. I've worked in, I've never worked in a community larger than about 1,100 people. So I do small Colorado towns. That's what I do. I have a consulting firm called Timberline Consulting LLC. Just celebrated its 9th year about a week ago. So I've been doing this for a little while as a consultant. Every town I've worked at has a council manager system. Like we were talking about in the interview, the concept's been around for 100-some years. So it's not anything new. There's plenty of good best practices for you guys to choose from. And that's what I would like to do, working for your community. So I want to get the questions. I'm not going to sit here talking.
Well, the board has, those of them who are not on the committee that met you first round, they do have your resume and the written responses to our little essay exercise. So with that, board, what questions do you have for Mr. Patterson?
Look at that again. Whoops.
What I do best.
Where are you living now?
I live in Edwards. And so I've been looking in the newspaper for if there's things coming down here, I would have a presence down here. Which I think a couple of your candidates might have to do so.
Through the interview process and also probably through the application process, we learned a little about Green Mountain Falls' experience with the town manager form of government and some of the twists and turns therein. Tell me a little about, from your experience and your knowledge at this point of Green Mountain Falls, what your thoughts and impressions are from where we go from today into the future.
Keep plugging. You're heading in the right direction. So you had a fun word too. Keep plugging. You're heading in the right direction. This is where you guys, I think, should be. None of what has happened is insurmountable. There's going to be discussion. Citizens are going to want to know how this works. I'll happily be an advocate for this. Love to talk to people. Part of what I do when I'm managing is I'll go walk around the town once a day just to see stuff, you know. Great excuse to get out of the office, but you go see stuff, you learn stuff. That's when somebody tells you, hey, that culvert's loose, or you know, that tree grew over the stop sign and it's causing problems, stuff like that. During those conversations and during those walks, I'm sure I'll be interacting a lot with citizens. And I would love the opportunity to tell them why I think this is a good system, and why I think their government's headed in the right direction, why I think it would be good for their tax base, why I think it would make their dollars go farther, more bang for the buck, everything like that. As far as the process, you have a budget that you're looking at right now, so you're gonna get that hammered out. Part of this position is making sure that gets through. You have an October 15th deadline for your draft. You have to have it in by mid-December, 3rd of December. To get that off the table and done, as far as hiring this position specifically, how much money do you have budgeted? Is that a correct amount? What exactly is the job description? Okay. What exactly do you want this person to do? All the criteria. And then where in your code do things need to be changed? You find some weird one-ups. You may find something in a public works code or something like that that mentions something that you gotta go clean up. So it's not all gonna be in, I believe, your chapter 2. You're gonna see things all over your code. You may or may not, I'm not sure. But you're gonna have to go through your code and recodify the position. Get that ad out, get people in, start talking to them. In the interview process, one thing I said is, part of my job as a consultant is to beat the bushes for you. Call DOLA, call some larger communities, call places around here. Hey, do you have a department head who maybe want to make a jump? Something like that. So it's not just placing that and sit back. You guys can do that. Part of what happens when you hire a position like this is you're also getting my Rolodex, my experience, my context, and like that. And that's what you'll be getting from me is me picking up a phone, calling people going, we're hiring here. We're hiring for a position that's interesting. It's gonna be challenging, it's gonna be fun, but we need somebody who can do the job. Would you have any suggestions? And then I would also cast the net a little farther, so a little closer, because you never know if you're gonna get somebody from Maine who thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread, and, you know, brings their lobster rolls and butter with them. Have some Colorado beer with it, you're okay.
You had a chance to look at the job description we have drafted, which is a draft job description for the permanent positions. One of the things you mentioned was getting that exact job description pinned down. What are your thoughts on the work we put in to date on profiling that?
Great. I think it's good stuff. I think you just want to go through some of the detail stuff. I'm not thinking back, I'm not sure how much it dealt with the clerk stuff, or was it just the manager in the job description? And so, you know, going through that, the finance part, getting that nailed down. You guys may have it nailed down, hey, this is what we want. We've talked about it, we're done. Great. I think though, at some level, I want to have interaction so that I can understand why you made those decisions in that document that you have. And then maybe I can say, hey, this is something I've experienced or I've thought about, or, you know, maybe let's tweak this a little bit. So that's what the other job description part is. And part of the job description part is, I need to make sure I'm out there to kind of see what's going on. You know, I mean, I know you guys have had all that experience too. I would like to lend my voice in crafting that, even if you guys have 98% done and you're just looking for a little 2%.
So part of the description for this interim position is manager clerk. How do you feel about the clerk end of the job?
You have to do it. And I've done it before. I've done it before. It's small town. And a lot of it's just getting systems set up. Like I was saying in the interview, I don't wait to do minutes. So if I'm in charge of doing minutes, I try to get them done as quick as possible so it's still fresh in my head. You do the bills on a certain date. You do those types of things. However you want it set up record retention wise. I don't know what system you guys have in place. Do you scan all your stuff? What do you do? Stuff like that. Clerk can be a fair amount of routine. And the finance part too, you know, on this date you do bills, on this date you do this, these things need to happen, I need to get the packet materials out on this date. But yeah, I've done the clerk position. And I've done finance position as well.
Good.
In small towns you do that, and that's nothing new, that's nothing new. Small towns, you do that.
Do you see any special challenges with it being a very small town as compared to some of the larger communities?
I see benefits. I see ability to communicate. I see a willingness to speak your voice, and at being that voice carrying in a citizen's conversation farther than it would in a metropolis. I see an ability to go talk to people. You had a list of voters, it's probably 400 and some odd people. You can talk to every single one of them. I bet you and I can sit down that list and you can tell me who's for and who's against this. That's benefits you can get in a small town that you cannot get in a big town. I like small towns. Look at you guys sitting here now. This is like the best part of democracy there is. It's a small town, you can do it so much tonight. You chose to be part of your community, okay? They're watching you, okay? That's fine, that's what they're supposed to do. In a larger community, you don't have that face-to-face and you don't have it so in depth. I'll see people more than once. I'll know their opinions. I don't mind that at all. I have an open door policy. Come in, please. You know, if you got an issue, talk to me. Talk to me. All that I ask is it's kept decent. And a lot of that is, there's a difference between somebody's yelling at you and yelling through you. Right? A lot of people when they interact with government, it's the first time, second time maybe they've dealt with this thing going Green Mountain Falls or wherever community they're at. So they come in maybe a little frustrated, a little upset, maybe not know what's happening. More than willing to take any time to walk through it, to say, hey, that's a good idea, we'll try that. I can't do that because of this. Small towns are great. I mean, small towns are great. I see just advantages. I don't see disadvantages. I see advantages based mainly on community.
throw a repeat question at you that you heard at the committee level.
Sure.
When you think about the term of the 6 months, how do you see your focus ebbing and flowing to different efforts through that term?
Well, I'll reiterate my answer. I think when I see interim, the thing I want to do is get done and get out of here. And not be an interim that lasts 3 years. Not be an interim that lasts 2 years. You have an interim tag because you guys want to move on. You have told the citizens, we want to head this direction, right? So in my mind, as I said in the interview, first is getting the budget done. Let's get that out of the way. It's a small budget, it's about $500,000. Let's get through that, hammer that out, make sure that's done. Because your budget is your reflection of what your priorities are as a community, right? So let's get that done, make sure that's done. While that's happening, I'm gonna be watching what's happening to see what management levels are necessary, to see what this place does, and so I can be involved in that job description discussion, those types of things. And then I firmly believe that your 6-month timeline is very, very doable. And in fact, we may have a little bit of a cushion during that timeline. I don't see this, look at the quality and the uniqueness of the individuals you have applying for this position, the 3 people you got as finalists. I think you're gonna get good quality candidates. I think you have some advantages over other small towns. And so I think I'm excited about the quality of the person I think you can get here to help you kind of build this thing. But, and then, as I talked about in the interview, you can say, these are our plans, and this is what we're gonna do, and this is what the next 6 months is. And the inbox may decide that, no, that's not really what we're doing. There's another issue that's coming down the pike that we may not have any idea here what's happening. And the example I used during the interview is I was a manager of a small town, 400 people, 500 people. Was planning to come to work today, do nothing but budget stuff. Little small town, have my spreadsheet, my coffee, that's all I was gonna do. A fire erupted and took about half my downtown. So that's why I spent the next 3 weeks working on a set of budget, because we had to bypass water. So we keep water pressure up, which means then we're dealing with the state and boil order and yada, yada, yada. And there we went. And so I'm working extra time to get budget done. You need to hire somebody who can get you through the process of organizing your government and hiring the right people, and has the skill sets to just handle the day-to-day of whatever weird stuff is going to open the door. Because you never know what's coming in next. But after my time in small towns, I've seen a lot of things that I'm kind of seeing now that I don't get caught with things. Oh, I've seen that. Oh, we dealt with that here. Oh, that's something I've seen here. That's something that's a nice place to be improved.
How do you compare what you know about Green Mountain Falls with your latest with the bank?
How do I'm sorry?
Compare the roles.
So you were there for quite a while.
I was there for 3 years. I was their manager. I was there 2 days a week. So we were in a managing community of $1.5 million budget on 2 days a week. They had a little more staff. In fact, they were overstaffed.
What does overstaffed look like?
They had a clerk and a deputy clerk that one person could have gotten those jobs done, I believe, in full-time capacity. It was just that it was a small town thing. So one of the people that worked there was a longtime local, born and raised there, got the job, and so how do you work through that? Is it my best effort to say, okay, it's not impacting the budget a ton, we're getting work done? Is that a fight I really want to get into as an administrator? If the quality of the work had gone way down, it was causing problems, that would have been one thing. If it was an overlapping of duties, and I was stuck in a very small community where she was, like, her uncle was on the board and stuff like that. Those are small town things you work through. What I did to work around that was I started training her to make her more efficient on stuff. So that she had never, what I found out, she had never really received any training on much of the things that she had done. So we were able, 3 years to kind of boost her until we get stuff done. So they were really overstaffed now, because they had 2 people here. management's management. You're both statutory towns. You both have basic requirements. They have a water sewer side of their budget you guys don't have. They have franchises or utilities you guys don't have. You guys have one fund, you have a general fund. So we had some moving parts, but when I first got hired there, the question they asked me, can you help us disincorporate? We're dead and we're dying. And it ended up, they hooked their wagon to marijuana and things took off, but this job, as far as some basic functions of management and basic functions of what you have to do, is the same that I had in Minturn, and Redcliffe, and Timnath. You have to do certain things, state statute wise, which is basic things you do management wise, to get the job done. And then other than that is individual circumstances that come up about river washed the bridge out or sewers backed up, we have to deal with the district or whatever. Hiring staff, something like that. But again, as I look back at this job, this is interim, and it is my job to get you guys the next step as cleanly as possible. And I think fast is a bad term, but as much time as it takes to do it right. But I think it can be accomplished well in the timeline you guys have set up.
So you use the term that said budget's a reflection of the board's priorities. So as the town manager / clerk, when you take a look at the litany of things that need to get done, you just talked about some of them. The budget, hiring potentially a marshal, a public works supervisor, ordinance updates, the transition plan for DOLA, potential grants, the day-to-day things of business and dog licenses, and attending board meetings and working on the website and things like that. Where do you see the priorities of a finite period of time, say 6 months, maybe less?
The number one priority I have is getting you guys organized, hiring you an administrator. That is the number one thing this job is, in my understanding. That's why you brought this position on. You want some really experience to help you kind of set this up and get some of the people in the positions and get them going.
And I think that might, just to clarify, the actual goal is to decide, is this the right?
Is this the right thing?
Okay, it's not to move forward, it's to decide whether it is the right thing. Okay, just to clarify that.
I think day to day, just coming in and seeing what comes next. I would like, once we get more staff, to do staffing and stuff like that. But we need to get some work done, so you're hiring some staffing, your public works, your marshal, get those on, get the budget, and start, like I said, piecing together this position. I think you're going to find that it works. The system works well. Having a manager works well, and it just saves a lot of brain damage to hire somebody who's maybe seen things 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times instead of you guys going, "What is this?" So that when there is something in a grant application that says, who knows, something about health funds or something, you're not digging around for 2 hours trying to find that document. That's the document I need. That's the number I need. I take that, I put in the grant application. And so that's kind of what I think that's something that fits in this position.
Any questions? Do you have anything else for us?
No, I've had a copy, I have a agreement that if I'm chosen, I can give to you or your attorney to look over. It's something that's been used in a variety of communities with other consultants. I looked at it from somebody else, a mentor of mine. So if it goes that route, there's something we can hammer out. I would love to get started on this sooner rather than later if it goes that direction. I'm very excited. I think you guys are in a great, I think you guys have a lot of advantages that maybe you don't even know you have. But I think you're heading in the right direction. You're doing what you should be doing, and it'll get better. A lot of you, some of you are new, some of you are not. I think you're trying hard to do good work. I've heard good things about this board. Speaking to people around not the community, but in my line of work. Do you guys have an idea of what your decision-making process is going to be, your timeline?
I don't think we do, actually.
I'm looking to the
Yeah.
committee.
I think obviously we were in a work session tonight and have heard from our three finalists from the committee level. So we have some discussion to do at the board level. And from that point, I don't know how tonight will pan out. Assuming there will be some action, I don't know exactly what that will be. There's obviously, as you mentioned, some contract language to hammer out even after the selection process. So, and background checks and et cetera. So there's certainly a time lag, even with a favorable decision tonight, there's still a time lag.
I don't think I have anything else to add, other than I appreciate what you guys are going through. I really do. I've seen boards struggle with some of these things, so
Thanks for making the drive back down and for this meeting.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
I'm gonna stick around for the word we not.
Right.
Great. Now it's up to you. If you want to have further work session, or if you want to recess till 7 and start the regular meeting at 7.
Trustee Butts?
You as the committee.
I was curious, in the hiring process, whether we would what the next steps would be, whether we're going to air this in public session or go into an executive session for either contract negotiations or personnel or strategy with making a decision. Because I think hopefully at this point, this board is ready to make a decision, but I'm just curious as to what the process might be.
My thought was is we asked the public not to give input directly to the candidates, but I would like to hear for those that attended, and including committee members of what their thoughts are. So
Yeah. And this is a work session, not necessarily a formal hearing or a formal agenda.
So for those that have joined, any questions or anything that we've done so far?
I think we're in the same boat that we were in last week after we finished the interviews, and Clay Brown said, you're in the kind of dilemma that you'd like to be in because you have 3 excellent candidates. And so your problem is going to be picking one of them. That's the best I can give you. I had my priorities. I set down 1, 2, 3. Frankly, I set down 1, 2, 3. They kept it 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3.
yeah, board, we actually when we finished the 6 interviews, we ranked and stacked and debated across, and we actually had a top 1, and we purposely didn't share that, so tonight wouldn't be a bias one way or the other. So this is
I have a little question. I just wondered, with all the technology that's available, is youth an advantage or not? Because you have different aged people here, and perhaps they've all satisfied you that, I don't mean you, David.
Well, since you're old.
Open everybody in.
The quick
Well,
answer
rather
is
than
it's
4
not.
miles.
and it really isn't a factor. It's
They're all,
it's an experience thing and what makes it best fit for the town.
like the website and all of the ordinances and all, you've already, they're all capable.
Yeah, and you heard it from all candidates about everything, whether it's a website, whether it's software packages, whatever. So age isn't really an issue.
And they'll also kind of lead you toward whether or not you do want a town manager or not, kind of get things organized. That's the way I'm looking at it, that the outcome 6 months from now will evolve,
That's correct.
maybe, I don't know.
Do you see this process as
contracting an individual for the 6 months and going down the road of, is a town manager, town clerk position viable? And there are numerous hurdles that, or obstacles or events that you will come to, and you'll be able to make a decision that, no, this isn't a viable option. Or if it is, then you continue on. Is it a process of deciding that you want or deciding that you don't want?
Interesting question.
Let me just rephrase it to make sure I understand. You're saying, do we need to, at any point during this 6 months, we can turn away from where we think we're headed? We think we're headed toward the town manager.
Yeah, you've collected enough information at that point there that you could make a decision at that point.
I think
More likely it would be a decision not to,
I think
rather
that's the
than
right
to.
way. I think we know where we're headed, and this particular job, the reason we're doing the interim is to verify that is. Make
Okay.
sure that we're in position to set that person up for success. As you notice, all 3 of these candidates, they're looking for interim work. And so this is an interim position to verify that we're set up. It's the right thing for the town, for the board, and that we're moving forward correctly.
Yeah, it's sustainable.
And sustainable.
Sustainable, yeah.
I have a question I'd like to ask. That's all right.
Sure.
And it's okay, you can just inform.
Okay.
As an interim, would you be the first to say whether it's something we need, or should go to a town clerk, or would you, having done, are you leaning, or are you totally in favor of a town manager as a?
I am in favor of a management structure that puts the elected officials back in a policy-making position at 50,000 feet to look out for their community. So I don't know if that is a council manager / clerk position, if it's a clerk manager position, how you want to phrase it. What I see is some way to get you guys back to the policy level decision-making level, regardless of how it's formed. But I think it's hard when you have individuals trying to run, on boards trying to run departments. They may not have the interest or the understanding of what's happening in that department. I mean, or it may get into politics. There's a lot of things. So the base level that I see is making recommendations to you guys saying, what I see is you have these responsibilities, and I think a management structure that looks like this would be the best way to go. But I don't think, and from my experience, doesn't win me to come out to you guys and say, it's best if you guys are running department heads. Because then what do you do after 2 years? What do you do after an election? It just can get you in all sorts of problems. It's just better that you guys give direction, and then that direction is carried out, whether the name tag says clerk, whatever it is. So that's our opinion.
Just to circle back to Mr. Alexander's question real quick. I heard you ask 2 questions. One was about direction and one was about viability, which may not have the same answer. Is it the direction we want to go? I think the advantages outweigh the value. That will be apparent. Is it viable? Totally separate question. And that's certainly a hurdle we have to work through. If that helps.
It does.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I know you wrote the job description for, I would say, the person that might be permanent. Are you asking the interim person to be able to have the same skills and ability as that job description you wrote? For example, you know, of course you look for someone who has budget experience. One candidate mentioned writing, you know, ordinances. I'm not clear as to what are going to have to, what skills you're asking the interim person to have demonstrate and carry out during that 6-month period?
Yes is my answer. Yes, we would like the person to best enable all the skills for that.
So
But
fulfill
we're-
your original job description
To the best.
to the best.
To the best. So we have a couple things. It's not that the person has to do each, the person has to ensure that each gets done. So it's not there's a list of tasks that need to get done, and they're there to help facilitate those tasks, as well as get these other tasks done that the permanent person won't have to, such as hire the replacement, those type of things. Hopefully they won't.
Develop a transition plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
transition plans and things like that shouldn't need to be. Change ordinances, well, those should be changed by the time the new person comes on board. So there's some, all things need to get done, day-to-day stuff has to get done. How it gets done is gonna be a collaborative effort.
Wouldn't you assume that both the interim clerk and the manager clerk and the full-time manager clerk have the same skills? To varying degrees. I mean, you're asking the interim manager clerk to provide you with these facilities or these tasks and the ability to meet them, but then the permanent guys pretty much gonna have to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with a few exceptions that they won't have to do.
Right, but again, you would assume that if you have a professional manager clerk who helps you hire another professional manager clerk, that they're gonna have the same skills, that, so that, if their roles were reversed, they probably would each be able to do the other's job.
Yeah, makes sense.
I like this process that we're doing now, and he made a good point back there, because we have trustees coming and going every election, every couple of years. But with a manager, he's showing us how to run smoothly. And when we get the new trustees in, they can just follow that. Or if you decide, the new board says, you know what, we want to get this over here a little bit, or this over here. But generally, we have one person that knows, yeah, this is how it works. I like this whole process, and I like having a manager because we have people coming in and out every couple of years. So it sort of, I think it stabilizes it, to me. But I do like this process we're doing.
Well, I think it's also an advantage for the employees,
Oh, yes.
because they know
One
who they're
person.
answering to,
Exactly.
besides the board, of course, but they have that day-to-day direction, which is valuable.
Does it make life easier for the trustees?
Yet to be seen.
We hope so.
Yet to be seen.
Well, it appears that it adds that factor of continuity and also deals with the chronic issue of, transparency and getting the government process to be known and by everyone and understood, and actually maybe even better participation.
Well, it's a consistent contact, because when the board changes, it's always, who am I calling? Why would I call so-and-so? You would know who's always there.
If I can add one thing,
Oh.
of course, it doesn't diminish your politics. It still allows you to go through your political process to reach your majorities and have your votes. But instead of now somebody on the board having to go and implement it, you now turn to an administrator to say, execute what we've voted on. So it doesn't diminish the policy, or the politics, because the politics is important. That's how you make decisions.
Right.
You know, you gotta go through that sausage making process. It just, now that you've made process, you should have somebody advising you, giving you professional research, stuff like that, that this position can do. But if anybody thinks that this diminishes politics or makes the manager, you know, the big wig of the town, it doesn't. Manager follows the direction of the board still plays their politics. Once they make a decision, they just turn it over to somebody to say, implement.
And that's probably gonna be the problem, especially for you guys, once you get a administrator on board, is that you don't just give them carte blanche. I think we've seen a couple of instances of that in the past, and not here, but in other places. And that, I think, is probably the biggest pitfall that the board will have, is just letting the manager take over, because that's, he's an employee. He's not the guy who makes the final decision.
How much public support do you need to make this happen? If nothing else holds it up, how much public support do you need? 25, 30, 50, 51?
When you say make this happen, what is this?
A town manager, town clerk, to go forward. And we've gone through this process for 6 months, and the decision is yes. We want, the board decides we want to go forward with having a town manager, town clerk. How much public support do you need? Then go ahead and execute that.
At minimum, a majority. Majority rules. We would need, certainly there will be ordinances that require changing to make this position effective or even defined. And I think we certainly want a level of public support, minimum majority, to be able to survive any sort of referendum attempt, which of course the attempt doesn't require a majority.
Right.
Right? Any other thoughts on that?
I think you're right.
I mean, there's, I'm gonna go out on a limb and suggest that there's a number of people here who don't care one way or another.
Anyway.
And so this, you know, they don't necessarily count for you, they don't count against you.
Well, I think as long as a system works well and people are happy and they're not worried, you know, that's, I think the people who are afraid that something is going to go badly. But I don't think we're stepping off the cliff here. I think this is a smart way to run a town. And it's a great way for the board to actually be able to have that policy setting instead of, what are you doing this week? What are you doing this week? It's more, what is good for the town? What does the future hold for the town instead of what's tomorrow?
Yeah. Like I said, you guys make the decision and then say, make it happen.
And this is not even our decision to do this. This is what it is, but it's under the recommendation of DOLA, of CIRSA, of a vast majority of towns across Colorado with notable successes. So we're in the minority right now that don't follow this.
I was going to ask a question that answered.
Okay.
Yeah, by far.
I don't have a statistic off the top of my head. It was in the front cover of the recent CML magazine. They had a statistic on all the towns in Colorado, how many are on which form of government. It was a very large number, 170 out of the 270, I think, something like that, are under a council manager form of government.
Well, if we have nothing further to add in the workshop, we can move ahead to regular agenda.
I would like to take maybe just a 5-minute recess, that way we hit the 7 o'clock, if other people.
I would
show up
like
for the
that
regular meeting.
too. So to that end, let's have a 5-minute recess. 2 minutes. We'll be back here shortly after 7. Shortly after.
I'm sorry.
Right. And I know that you looked that up. Oh, yeah.
There were 3 citizens.
Yeah.
And they decided
That's actually where I was going. That's what I was trying to find, is which is the I was. Which is, which is a letter.
I mean,
But I think the one negotiations.
I mean, you know, how would you get, how would you answer that first? Because
that was.
That's what. So we used to have one, really nice.
Right, I know.
See you again.
They know that he has the ability to follow through.
But you give it a shot. Yeah.
Just went through that one.
Yes, or should be capable of.
Good. Nothing. Nobody said.
Well,
I'm your strongest one.
hopefully, everything will be.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I would just go with this.
I went, oh, Green Mountain Falls, so.
You want to know, because it's important.
So, okay, guys, you said.
I had
No, that is great. I can take it anywhere. And I haven't been, yes, I have been.
I don't know today, I was shopping. But I don't remember the real. So what are you doing now? Are you cleaning up yard sheds or, I mean, everything looks so good. Most of the time. But for maintenance to do
Before you were
Do you have apple sugar? Yeah, yeah. We used to have one up at our old house, which is right next to where I'm now. And we would grab apple apples. But they were tiny. And, but we had, I think I would do like 10 pounds.
That's me.
And then I used to give bags away, like big shopping bags. This was years ago when we first moved here to the neighbors. And we got a lot of these hours. No, it's gone. We had a ton of space. We got, it was, I don't know if it was a snowstorm or whatever, and it just died.
I gotta say, I'm not far from it.
Yeah. But it looks always good. I know. All the fir trees are still at our old house, and they have gotten so big, some of them. It takes a while to get certain heights, and then they just keep going.
No. I still manage money. I'm still a night manager. I'm not.
Thanks, and we appreciate you talking to this
Good to see you. Yes, we are. I am out of the past. I'm still walking very gracefully because I don't have a whole lot of flexibility, but I'm here before. It's just fun now. It's very exciting. This has been the last week. I think we're
Me, takeaway.
I know, we're at this one, it's like, yeah, I see it all. Yeah, which, did you talk to her?
I know I'm safe here.
How are you? Yeah. Just work with it. It's that, when you do. Oh.
Come on.
Wow. You liking it? How long have you not been in
Yeah.
We're gonna reconvene this meeting at 7:08. Again, this is the Board of Trustees regular meeting for Tuesday, September 20th. Time 7:08. We do have a couple corrections to this agenda before we go ahead. I would like to move public input right up to after the consent agenda. I would like to add an executive session in item C, old business 5C.
Second, those changes to the agenda.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving to item 4, the consent agenda. We need to look at approving the Board of Trustees minutes for September 6, 2016. Bring to record the approved PC minutes from August 23rd. We have added approval of the September 15th minutes. We need to approve the bills payable that were run from September 7th to September 20th in the amount of $3,507.90. There are some corrections to a few of these, so I would like to pull each out individually. On the board minutes for September 6th, Larry Small's name should be Small, corrected to S-M-A-L-L. For the September 15th minutes, Cameron, you had a correction?
Yeah, on item 4 on September 15th minutes, I believe it is section 246424B, to receive legal advice on a specific legal question, not legal advice from the town attorney.
Okay, I had spoken to the town attorney and that was the CRS number he gave me, he put in the minutes, so.
Double check that, but.
We can check it.
Okay, so let's put those September 15th minutes aside until we can confirm which CRS number we're going to cite.
Yeah, for, B is legal advice.
All right? And it is regarding a specific legal question.
Maybe he said D and it sounded like E.
That could be. Court, do you have any further corrections on the consent agenda? I would like to move that those 2 small changes be made.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. We have moved in the agenda the public input up to right now. If any member of the public has something they would like to contribute, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
I'll start.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Jill Isbell. My address is 8250 Emporia in Tascade. And I am here tonight on behalf of the Triangle Chamber of Commerce. I believe, and I want to confirm that you all received a letter potentially today from Emily Beetleman? No, then I'm going to kind of read it verbatim if you're okay. I'm here for 2 reasons. To ask permission for something, but first I want to tell you what we're doing. So this is the 3rd year we're going to do the trunk or treat like we've done the last 2 years. It's been pretty successful for the town. The kids have enjoyed coming down and participating. We're going to do it again this year. But this year we want to make it more activities leading up. So we want to do a scarecrow alley. The twofold of this is we want to have scarecrows all throughout town. We really want to drive more people to the community. We really want to bring people, if they're going to come up and check out the color, it would be nice if they checked out our scarecrows on their way back down the path. The scarecrows are going to be done by businesses as well as by citizens. So we can put, and then they'll be thematic. So for instance, Mucky Duck would like to do a scarecrow dressed as a chef, for instance, sitting outside their front door. so let's see, citizens, towns, family members could set up scarecrows and bring down and do any type of thing that they want to do, any businesses that they want to do. So one of my purposes is to talk to all the citizens and say, we love to get your scarecrows, have a lot of fun, fix them up, make them goofy, make them silly, and let's make the town light up with some scarecrows. And the second is really what we're asking from the city, is that we would like to have permission to display the scarecrows on some of the town property. Ideally, what we're looking at, I mean, obviously this is the first year. We'd love to see it grow over time. But ideally what we're looking at is to have scarecrows start as early as town hall here and going all the way down to the park on Mountain Road. Put them in parks. They're not going to be staked in the grounds. The chamber is going to be responsible for litter. If any of the scarecrows fall apart, come apart, some of their adornments come loose, whatever the case may be, we're going to make sure to kind of cruise the street and the town on a regular basis to make sure to pick it up. So that's kind of our goal. That's kind of what we're looking at. We think that this could be a lot. There's a goal. Thank you. They're going to be set up on the week of October 2nd through October 8th. So we're kind of pushing it through on an expedited process. Our first step is really to get permission to use the city grounds if we can. If not, we will use private property and businesses and such to give us permission to, because it's going to happen. But it'd be fabulous if we can have it go all the way down Mountain Road. So October 2nd through the 8th, people will be able to have an opportunity to put their scarecrows up. And then they'll actually be up from the 9th through the 31st. So after trunk or treat, all the scarecrows should be able to go home and live on everyone's porch throughout Thanksgiving holidays. So, do you have any questions for me?
Where all would they be located?
Well, depends on how many we have. So any residents that are on the main strip, of course, they'll probably want to put it in front of their own home. The businesses will put them in the businesses. We would like to put them in the parks, actually. I think we like to put them in the parks. We like to put them along the streets because we don't want people to have to go. And I can't give you this is how exactly the locations. It's going to be strategically placed based on how many scarecrows we get to show up that are going to be positioned throughout. We want to be them in the most visible places possible, and we want them to be in the most obvious places possible. So I can't give you a list. We'd have to come up with a list. If you want that, we could. That'd be easy enough to do. But it's going to be dependent on how many we have. And a lot of the scarecrows are going to be, by companies and individuals. And we'd love to get 30 in the first year. We'd be satisfied if we got 15 to 20. Hopefully this can grow every year. We'll get people come in, stop down, come in, check out the scarecrows, maybe stop, have some lunch, have some hot cider, have a drink at the Blue Moose, whatever the case may be. Any thoughts, questions otherwise?
Is this just a Green Mountain Falls event, or is it all three communities run by the chamber?
This one is going to go from Town Hall to Mountain Road. So this particular project is going to just make Green Mountain Falls down to Mountain Road. I'm not sure if that crosses city limits or not. I don't think it does. I think it's right. I lived on Mountain Road once upon a time. I was still in Green Mountain Falls officially. So,
how are you securing them?
They're going to have to be on stands and weighted down.
Okay. And dimensions?
I don't know that we have set. I don't think we have rules, restrictions, limitations.
How long do you plan on having them up?
Till the 31st.
Starting when?
The 9th. Well, people are going to be able to put them up between the 2nd and the 8th, and then the official Scarecrow Alley is going to be the 9th through the 31st.
I think it's a great idea, and it's a great innovative way to try to bring folks together. One thought, just individually, is you might want to consider density first rather than trying to space them all the way from Town Hall all the way to Mountain Road.
Well,
if
yeah.
you have just a few,
Yeah.
have a higher density of them, so it doesn't.
I foresee us doing downtown and spreading out. But we will not go beyond Town Hall, and we do not, or I should say we do not intend to go. Now, who knows, maybe people have so much fun that we get all these people, we have thousands of them, and we go all the way down to Kings Peak, but that, a girl can only dream. So the other thing that we will make sure to do is we, as the chamber, are gonna make sure to review the displays and make sure that they're all family appropriate and not, Halloween horrid, or whatever the case may be, so. We want it to be a fun and a happy thing, and we think it'd be fun to do something fall that's different from the rest of the state as far as anything else we've seen. Christmas is too much competition.
One other thought is you might want to put together just some general guidelines, some half dozen things such as family appropriate, and
Yeah.
approximate sizes, or what you're looking for, what you're hoping to achieve, and why you're doing it, and then
Yes.
encourage some people to.
So if we get permission tonight, then we'll know how much space we have to utilize, that we can, in the announcement that we're gonna put out to the membership and to the residents, then we can list, here's what we're looking for, this is what we need, this is what we don't need. Obviously, having it a way to weight it down and such is important, and a lot of people may not think about. And all of that will be included, we just wanna be able to know how much information we can include as far as our positioning. Maybe somebody, for some specific reason, would really like it to be at the park, we need to know if we can put scarecrows next to the park.
Would you be including the artwork that's done? Do you have to have their permission to do that, or our permission? I don't know how that would work, that little patch thing.
A scarecrow inside the scare?
It would make a great ton of the bars, I don't know.
I think that's one that you have to ask.
So that's, I didn't know who it was,
After.
that's,
Yeah.
sounds like.
Board, do you have any further questions? May?
Isn't this kind of like, wouldn't this require like a special use permit? And what keeps the scarecrows from going in the lake just like the flower pots do?
Well, and that's why I liked when the chamber said they're responsible for cleaning it up. Because actually.
Because that is our responsibility.
We
If
have
that
no way
happens,
to keep it from happening. As far as special use permit, if they're not seeing any profit from it, and if the driving is going to be town and town businesses, I don't see that as being an issue, because that's an individual decision for the businesses.
And there's not a single event. It's just a display over 3 weeks to try and get people to say, hey, Green Mountain Falls has this really fun, kind of cool thing in town, we should go check it out and see what that's all about.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen this come as an action item, because that makes it easier to discuss. Board, what's your pleasure on this?
I have one more thought. Shouldn't it be also how far away from the street? So that it's not so close to the street for, to see when you're driving by? I don't want to put a damper on any of this, but, you've got to go with the rules of the town. And our flower pots were the main thing. She spent over $500, and they ended up the next day in the lake.
Yeah, and of course, that's a concern for you and for your event as well, as we've had.
Well, our event's not gonna be successful if we don't do the homework, and we don't know what are the rules, the city regulations and ordinances as far as how far away from the, we have no curbs, but how far away from the paved section do we have to be, and making sure that they're done. And it's, I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be perfect first time through, because everything is a trial and error and everything is a grow over time. But we also wanna grow the event over time, and we wanna grow our town to have kind of a fun activity, and who knows, maybe we could end up having a couple hot cider afternoons if we get enough people. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, they can't obstruct sidewalk, of course.
Because they're not staked, because they're not permanent, obviously, we're all gonna use a level of common sense, I would assume, is gonna be in placement as far as where they're protected from, bad things that could happen, and making sure that they're not a, danger, that's the word I was looking for, thank you, Mike. Making sure they're not a danger and not preventing anything, but obviously, because they're just pick up and move, we can pick it up and move it. If there's ever anything that is a problem, we're not gonna be upset about that, so.
And I think you can't plan for vandalism, so if they end up in the lake, because like the flower pot, somebody threw them in the lake, you can't.
And we're gonna do the scarecrows, the best case scenario, we would love to work with the city and have the cooperation of the town to say, we wanna embrace this new opportunity, we think this is great, and we wanna go for it, because it's fun, it's different, it's an attempt to bring people into our town. We would love to do that, but if we cannot use town property, we're still gonna do it on personal property and in front of the businesses and such, so a lot of the concerns that you have, it's all still kinda gonna happen, we're just hoping everyone can work together and support each other in all of our efforts.
Well, what I'd like to see is, now are people gonna reply back to you to say, yes, we're gonna do this?
To the chamber.
So I think it would be a wise thing, because our meeting is gonna be October 4th. Get your numbers and how many you're gonna have. On the 4th, have this as an action item so that we can say where, if you have
Well,
a
we will
whole
be,
lot.
we will be setting up that they can start setting up on the 2nd.
That would be the private things.
And we can even say, we're just gonna put it on private property, and if you would like to discuss on the 4th, if we can move a couple of them, then that would be fine.
Well, I think that's the thing, is we don't know the numbers that you have.
Right.
If you have a limited number, you put them in front of the businesses. If you have what I hope you have, and hope you have a whole lot more, I would love for the board to have been aware of this and be able to be thinking of here and here and here and here.
Yeah, and I do apologize for the last minute. We just voted on this and decided to do it last Thursday, and we're just, we're going, they have a meeting Tuesday, and it's the last one before the event, so we kind of had to show up tonight and say, we're putting this together, and we'd love to get your support.
No,
So-
I understand, and I just would like to see, what your numbers are gonna be of participation, and then I think it would be an easier discussion and an easier decision, and perhaps a more open concept of where we can put them, if we know the numbers.
So is the board requesting to place the scarecrows? Is that what I'm understanding, that you want to tell me where to put them, based on I have 5 available?
I'm uncomfortable with
Just
anything.
curious.
I'm uncomfortable approving anything along streets without seeing where on the streets.
Okay.
Is it gonna block view, sightlines to a sign, or interfere with maintenance operations and public works, et cetera? So
Okay.
Not in front of the sign.
that's the most important.
I know.
So I think what we're saying is we'd like to see you come back with this, let's look at the numbers and have some,
Well, one example, just so you know, examples is because there are a lot of ideas of different scarecrows to put together, but we'd love to have an old Marshall and put one in front of the old Marshall's office, you know, the old Western cowboy, whatever type thing. Obviously, that's not gonna be in the middle of the road and blocking, but if that's what you guys need, then we can put something together.
yeah, I
In
think
the
that would be
meantime, we're gonna plan to go as far as we can, not knowing if we're gonna be able to do that or not.
right. Well,
And
let's,
I would encourage you to not just look at the numbers, but also bring to us the parameters for which you'll utilize public right of way.
Okay.
Just
Well,
put
you'll
those
see
down.
that because we're gonna start advertising it. So, we'll make sure to send it to you because we're gonna put it out to the community because they need time to plan and prop and, you know, accumulate
Two different
costumes and
things,
such.
those are the parameters for establishing what the scarecrows might look
Oh,
like.
yes, I'm sorry.
What I'm asking for is a list of guidelines for how you will place the scarecrows
Uh-huh.
within the public right of way.
Okay, sure.
Because then that gives you the flexibility, if we can approve it and say it is, you know, these parameters, as long as you're meeting this, we're
Yeah.
okay with it.
And that's fine.
So that's easier than saying, I'm gonna put one here
Yeah.
and one there and one. whatever.
Absolutely. We can
So-
completely provide that to you.
okay, so I mean, as an action item.
Thank you. And then we won't have, 2 days ahead of time. We gotta go talk to them. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. Good to see you, Kat.
is there any further public comment? All right, seeing none. 4A, Creek Week, Allison? Oh, Larry's here. I only have Allison on the agenda.
Do you want that off?
Well, thank you very much for recognizing Creek Week. I'm Larry Small, Executive Director of the Fountain Creek Watershed Flood Control and Freeway District. And Creek Week is one of our biggest citizen participation events in the district. This year, I'm happy to say that we have 8 municipalities and 3 counties participating. The entire Fountain Creek Watershed, 927 square miles, is now covered by Creek Week. And I'm gonna let Allison give you all the wild details and statistics about what's going to happen. Allison is the chair of Creek Week. She is the chair of our outreach subcommittee in the Citizen Advisory Group for the district. And the Citizen Advisory Group is the citizens' voice to the board and the board's voice to the citizens. They're very important in the operation and the success of our district. And we're proud to have great citizen participation. So with that, I'll introduce Allison, and you will be wild.
No pressure.
Let me up there. I will, absolutely. Can you just go ahead?
I will.
Thank you. Good evening, my name is Allison Clute. I do watershed planning for Colorado Springs Utilities, and as Mr. Small mentioned, I'm engaged with the Citizens Advisory Group of the Watershed District, and I chair the outreach committee as well as this Creek Week event. We're going into our third annual Creek Week event, and it's really about getting the word out about the Watershed District and all the effort that it has before it, making our watershed safer, cleaner, better, wonderful place to live. Creek Week is about engaging citizens in an activity that doesn't take too long. After doing this program for 3 years, we found out that most people spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours time doing the litter cleanup. Creek Week is not just a day, it's 2 weekends and the time frame in the middle. That way there's no excuses, whether it's my kid has soccer practice or there's bad weather, you can get out there at any time. Here in Green Mountain Falls, you are having a cleanup this Saturday. That information, along with all the 16 other public events, are listed in that folder there. Citizens, I encourage you to go to our website, fountaincreekweek.com, for all the information about the cleanup event. We have generous support from local businesses, so we provide the bags, we provide gloves, we provide buckets from Home Depot. Let's do this. And then this year, we're also providing them with some bandanas. You have those in your folders. Those are much highly coveted items for our volunteers as a thank you for their support. So just been a great way to encourage our citizens to give back a little bit to the watershed, and looking forward to hearing what kind of numbers you can produce out of here. The first year we started Creek Week, we engaged over 600 citizens in cleaning up about 7 tons of litter, which was an amazing number that first year. Last year we doubled the participation, had over 1,500 citizens clean up 10 tons of litter, and our steering committee that's made up of over 20 organizations from around the different communities in the watershed, we have a goal of engaging 2,000 citizens to clean up 12 tons of litter. And for any of you that hike our trails, enjoy our waterways, you know that can be found. So this has become a regular event for the watershed, and we encourage all of you to participate. So thanks so much for having us here. And I'd also like to recognize Jack Wallach. He's the another Citizens Advisory Group member and adamant supporter of all things watershed. He's been playing in these creeks since he was a kid, so still at it.
Love the creek.
Well, our Creek Week event, like you said, is going to be Saturday, 9 o'clock. We're meeting outside of the pool. And we're gonna pick up trash along the banks from outside the pool, just on the public property, down to the lake.
It's Catamount Creek or Fountain Creek?
Both. Wherever we can get people to pick up trash.
It all ends up in the same place, so whether you're picking up right in a creek or on just general land, anything that's on the land will make its way into the waterways, so anything helps.
So we can pick up trash in the park too. So be
Please do.
excited, and 9 o'clock I'll be there.
Great, send us pictures, we'd love to hear a report of how you guys do it here.
And the meeting place is going to be where?
At the pool parking lot.
Pool parking lot. Any slash or just trash?
We are doing debris. If there's debris that's, causing a blockage of waterways or culverts, you can certainly remove those. Anything that can fit into a bag or a bucket or a dumpster we'll take.
Thank you.
Good.
Great, thanks
Thank
so
you
much for
very
your
much.
support. Thank you.
And additionally, I'd like to add, I brought you another copy of the Upper Fountain Creek, Shine Creek Flood Restoration Master Plan, so I'll.
Good, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So wear gloves, I'll bring trash bags. Can I trash? Item B is discussion to repeal the ordinance 10201B1, loitering for the purposes of begging. As you know, this has gone to our attorney, it's gone to the attorney at Sursa. Sursa's attorney recommended that indeed it be repealed, but it is not as simple as just voting to repeal it. We actually need to write an ordinance as such. I talked to Matt and I said I would be happy to draft that and send it to him for review.
we got 5 hours of consultation time from this attorney's firm working with Sursa.
Right?
Do we know how many hours we burned, so to speak, in their review of our ordinances?
I don't, what I had asked them was if we got close to that 5 hours, I wanted notification that we were getting close to it, because then the cost comes to us. I can find out if you'd like.
I would like to find
As
out
long as
because
it's not billable.
Sure.
just because I believe drafting, that's a very simple ordinance to draft, and it probably wouldn't take them very long if we're still under our cap. At no cost.
If they are drafting it for everyone else, they might as well put ours in the mix. That's what I would think. So Renee, would you ask that? And if they have, then I won't draft anything. And I'll be perfectly happy not to.
I'll find out for you.
Thank you. Item C. Oh, Matt, I'm sorry.
Are we the first community in history to ever repeal an ordinance against loitering or loitering for begging?
I know that there were something like 34 communities in Colorado that have this same issue that's being looked at by Sursa, and that's what Cameron was saying, is if Sursa's attorney's drafting it, let's let them draft it.
Okay.
Item C, recommendation to the Board of Trustees from the Planning Commission to direct fence owner Dave Nicholas to take down a fence over Catamount Creek. Charlie, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it was June 9th, 2015. Planning Commission, one of the agenda items was Margaret Morris, I think it was, had sent a packet of pictures showing flood damage that she believed was a result of I believe it's a picket-style fence that is strung across Catamount Creek, just downstream from her property. Her property is at the downstream side of Grandview and Belvedere.
Olathe.
Is it Olathe?
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
right.
she's at the wrong.
Yeah.
Olathe.
You're on the side of the creek.
There's not a lot of grade there, and from Olathe, you virtually can't see the creek. There's so much brush. And then it sits far enough back from Belvedere that you couldn't view it without going onto either's property. But pictures showed a picket-style fence that was suspended by wires or cabling across the fence, and she had numerous pictures of ice dams that had formed upstream as well as downstream from that fence. And then she had gotten maybe a foot of water in her basement from these ice dams. And whether or not the fence actually was root cause for that to happen, I'm not sure, but what is it? It's 16804, I think it is the ordinance.
16-8041.
That prohibits putting anything in a waterway that can impede the flow of water. And so that was the rationale for the Planning Commission recommending that the board instruct the fence owner to remove that.
All right, board? Do you have any questions?
Was any of that flooding due to the old fence or the new fence?
Don't know. We don't even know. I mean, my thought is there's two sides to it. If you have a substantial water flow and you get any kind of debris on it, it's going to take the fence out. Water's only going to back up so far before that fence is pulled from its moorings or whatever. During the winter, where You may not have the flows from, you know, a downburst. With a gentle grade, you could probably get the ice dams with or without the fence. So whether the fence is causing the damage or not, you'd need an engineer to figure that out.
Well, the recommendation is that the fence is the problem. Right? And so that's why I asked, was the flooding occurred while the historic fence that was there, or is it an issue of a newer, stronger?
According to, I believe it was Miss Morris, probably both. There was an original fence that got washed away, and another fence, a replacement fence, went up. Don't know if flooding has occurred since that has happened. But flooding had occurred while a fence was there, and they believe that the fence was that cause.
But the ordinance itself says you can't obstruct the waterway.
You can't do anything that interferes with the water flow. So whether it interfered or not, there's an ordinance that prohibits that.
Does the bottom of the fence hit the water at normal flow?
Don't know. You can't see the fence from the road.
So if, for argument's sake, if the fence doesn't block the water flow, was the fence put up legally? Do you know if they ever came before planning?
No, I don't know. My guess is the fence was up prior to me joining the planning commission.
Mike?
I'm familiar with the property, and the fence actually was strung above the creek and across. But as things have kind of moved, the erosion and the like, and then also the fence broke and it was repaired with smaller slattings and taller slattings, and that's what caused the first backup. Then I guess the nephew went out and broke some extra openings in it, thinking that that would relieve. Kind of the bottom line to it is, it should be, if we're going to have it strung across for the appearance of the fence is there, that they have to go back to the larger slotting, just in case the water rose high.
Gail?
Why is a fence there to begin with? I mean,
I don't know.
It seems rather strange that there's a fence across water.
Well, additionally, with the interaction of land use and waterways, I think it's probably helpful for us to touch base with regional floodplain administrator and get their input on the situation as well.
I have spoken to Mr. Curtis, and there is no prohibition against fencing over waterways as long as it's not in the water.
Perfect. In the water,
It's
ever?
if there's a well, it was explained that this, if you go out and you were in Colorado, there's creeks all over on cow pastures, whatnot, there's fences over. So granted, they may be barbed wire, but they are all grouped together. There's no determination, well, it's barbed wire versus slat fence, as long as you're not impeding the waterway's normal flow. I don't think, it was referred to as a civil matter.
To me, the flooding concerns and neighboring property concerns do sound like a civil matter. Question for me is, does our section 16804 code, does this meet the definition of obstruction in the code? And in the other code, we're defining which types of fences go through plan review and permitting. Was it a permitted fence in the first place? I don't know the answers to those.
Yeah, if it was, my guess is if it was permitted prior to town hall burning down.
It was put up when they built the house. At least that's what they told me.
Is the section of fence upstream, is this the entire property surrounded with this fence, or is it just on one side? Because I'm assuming it would be on both sides of the property, right? Crossing the fence, crossing the creek twice?
do not know.
Right? If it comes into the property, it has to.
Yeah, it,
So which,
an
which,
east side and a west side,
Right.
an upstream and downstream.
so the issue that obstructed and caused the fence to fail, was that outside of his property or was that on the inside?
The water backed up, the ice dam backed up on his neighbor's property.
So the fence coming from the neighbor to his property. So he had no opportunity to access the property, clean it or what have you, right? It's outside the fence.
Yes, the backup would occur outside his property, the fence owner's property.
This would be the cause of the backup.
But it was caused by the fence.
Water doesn't back up by itself.
No,
Well,
that's true.
ice dams do though. I mean, just look at Catamount Creek with the falls as it goes out there. As water freezes, it builds an obstruction.
Do we have any of the pictures from June 2015? Can we request those?
Let me see if I have those. I should
Okay.
have them. I think, Renee, did you check minutes or, the agenda for pictures or just the minutes?
I went back and looked in the book and
Okay.
where the agenda and the minutes were, and there wasn't anything in there.
Well, for.
I'll look and see if I have pictures. I don't have a scanner, but I'll bring them down tomorrow,
What Thursday?
Thursday.
Board, what we have before us is a recommendation by the planning commission to direct David Nicholas to take the fence down. But we have some questions, including, does the fence obstruct? And was the fence ever legally permitted? We need to find out some answers to those. And I think it would be fair to table this until we get some answers to those questions.
And move to table until the next meeting.
Second,
Is there any further discussion?
yeah, I think procedurally, I think we need to determine what is the question we're answering.
Okay,
And probably should consult with the town attorney. Sounds like we're reviewing evidence, which is quasi judicial hearing perhaps. So what is the question we're answering? And what is the procedure to answer that question?
you want to determine that?
No, I'd like the town attorney to determine.
Right, I will talk to the town attorney. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of first item, tabling this, vote by saying aye. Any opposed? None. And I will speak with the attorney about what the question is we are reviewing here. Item D is a recommendation to the board from the planning commission to not sell the right of way on Colorado Street to Sean and Robin Meyer. Willie, once again, would you like to expand a bit on this?
The Myers sent a letter to the planning commission to find out the process for them to purchase the right of way of Colorado that is in front of their property. I'm not sure what street it goes, Illinois?
It's Colorado, there's a berm, and then it goes down to Boulder Street.
Down the border. So it's that stretch of the right of way they wanted to purchase. And in the Myers original email, they'd indicated that they would retain the public trail that comes up from Boulder to access Colorado. And then Mr. Bratton had a conversation with the Myers to where they wanted to get rid of that public traffic in front of their property. And so at that point there, the planning commission made a decision that, no, that's of benefit to the town, to the townsfolks. And we wouldn't want to recommend to sell that. And then I think
Board, if you wanna
Mac had also indicated that on only maybe two occasions, the town had sold property for the sole purpose of property that was being sold to clear title.
To clear title also so that it would land properly to have their septic tank on. Board, it is unusual for the town to sell right away for any reason other than to clear title. I think the planning commission has done their due diligence, and I think we should follow their recommendation on this.
And just to give you additional information, if you look at the draft minutes for September 13th, item 5B or 6B, it's their actual requests, and it stipulates the streets that were discussed in the area.
And I don't see their, it says asking how to go about purchasing, but it is, am I missing what their, why?
Yeah, the why would have been part of the agenda package for the August 23rd meeting. It wouldn't be in any minutes, it would have been in the planning commission's agenda, was the original email. Their question was, what is the process that they needed to follow to purchase the right of way? The why they wanted to purchase it, I do not believe in that letter was divulged.
So I'm appreciative of the work planning commission has put into this. I'm not clear on the agenda item before us. Have the miners made an offer to purchase the right of way, or have they merely requested, what is the process to make such an offer?
What is the process for making such a purchase?
Has the planning commission answered the
No,
question on the process?
no, we did not. And it was decided that because the purpose that was disclosed at our last meeting, that they wanted to get rid of that trail to burden the Myers with, and probably the planning commission as well. I think it's 11-111 is the ordinance for the planning commission to come up with a checklist of items that a purchaser would need to do. And there's two meetings that are required. And at that point, so there's effort on the purchasers, the Myers part, as well as the planning commission. But with the fact that they were going to do away with that trail, a decision was made to not recommend. And so their question was not answered.
Okay, I appreciate the recommendation. I would encourage you to answer their question on, and let them try, and accompany that with your recommendation if it gets back to the board for action.
Okay.
And further, I would add that it is unusual and extraordinary for the town to sell right of way.
All right?
Renee, can you get that on our agenda?
All right, that's to the planning commission. Item 5 is old business. A, Public Works Supervisor, job search update, trustee Thor.
First, a question for the clerk. Have you received any applications from interested people?
Just, Mac.
Matt? All right.
You got it.
When I find out.
You didn't know.
We have received applications for public works supervisor. There are several good candidates we'd like to interview and test. Jim Van Scoten has agreed to craft a equipment operation test, hands-on, and evaluate their skills in that area for road maintenance. So with that, I would like to not delay, but to form a review committee for those candidates. And I guess, Trustee Quinn, could I ask you, do you have availability to sit on that committee as the alternate liaison?
I do, I just have restrictions with work, so. It wouldn't, no, I couldn't do anything before 4:30 in the week during the week.
Okay. I think we can work around that.
Okay.
So with that, I would move to form a candidate review committee, similar to other committees for the public works supervisor, with myself, Trustee Quinn, and Mac Patrone as a committee of 3. And we will get evaluation feedback from Jim Van Scoten as a staff member.
I would second that. Board, any further discussion? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item V is the auditor bid. Well, these are the RFPs for auditor and attorney. I wrote these. I know you got the versions late today. They have gone through our attorney with any of his suggestions. The auditor grew a lot, and the reason being is I brought some assistance from Manitou, and they did put in a lot more information, including things like our clerical assistance and workspace and so forth. We still have time to look at these, but I would like to get them listed because we gave them a pretty short turnaround time, and we'd like to have some idea of what costs may be to put in our future budget.
I'd move approval of the release of the RFP for the auditor, and I'd also be inclined to do it for the attorney, even though I'm not there yet.
Well, we can do it at the same time, because
They won't understand the time.
but it's okay with me, because our RFPs are both there, and you've seen them.
I just have one comment on the request for proposal for auditor.
Mhm.
In this document, it says that these proposals will be reviewed by the town manager.
Well, that was a hopeful sentence.
Aspirational.
That was an aspiration,
Understood.
and I can certainly change that.
I would say
it's-
or authorize that, something like that.
Okay,
Just in case there is not one in place.
okay, I can say or authorized individual,
Something to that effect.
does that, all right?
Sound like a second.
Was that a second with that correction?
That is that.
Board, is there any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Renee, I'll talk to you about some of the places we can put these out. I did, as I said, speak to Manitou, and we can talk to them about that too. Item C, we would like to call an executive session to discuss a little further on the admin. I am okay with, is Mr. Barrett here? Board, would you entertain Mr. Barrett reading his letter so that he can leave before we have executive session?
Madam Mayor, I did almost encourage us to drop our executive session till after even the marshal update as well. I mean, Maybe a public hearing, I don't think this will take very long. Just in case people are here, we can use that session at the end and don't necessarily have to wait around if they're not interested.
So to be clear, your motion is to amend the agenda to move executive session down after correspondence or after reports?
I'd probably go after reports.
After reports. Second.
All right, the motion is to move the executive session to the end of the meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going to move item C down to the end so that we can conclude what we're doing. Item D is the Marshall job search update. As you may know, unfortunately, our candidate could not fulfill the job as set forth. And as such, we will need to discuss if we are starting over. We've had some interesting ideas about that. They've ranged from looking at the former pool or starting over. I would like to speak with our professional advisor who served on our committee before and get his opinion before we move one direction or another. I will say that El Paso County Sheriff, I spoke with Bill Elder directly, who said that, hey, we're not going anywhere. You still have the services, and he is also looking within his Human Resources Department to give us assistance, which I thought was very nice of him. So my update is not much of an update, except saying it was not the news that we wanted. But I will put forth information just as quickly as I can. Just waiting to hear a little bit more from Bill Elder. I did speak with his assistant today, who said she didn't have anything for me this time, but soon.
I would encourage us to take action to reopen the job search, which does not preclude us going back to any of those previous candidates, and doesn't preclude us from entertaining any other suggestions, but I think it does open up the opportunity for any potential candidates whose circumstances may have changed or who may have missed the deadline or not heard of it to enter into the selection process should we endeavor to review those as well.
As such, would you want to authorize me to post the jobs as I have done before?
Yes.
Second.
Board, any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I will work on posting those right away. That moves us to the public hearing, and this is a public hearing regarding Ordinance 3, 2016 Black Hills Energy Franchise Equipment. As such, we will adjourn the regular meeting at 8:01 and open up the public hearing. Public hearing is time for anyone to speak on what is proposed. We have a franchise agreement. The former agreement was 4%. We have looked at increasing it to 5%. There was some dissent on the board if that should be increased or not, and I would really like to hear people's opinion on what they think of an additional 1% franchise fee. That is always a fee that is passed on to the public, so the public would be paying an additional 1% on their natural gas bill. This is everybody's time to talk.
How much do we get for that franchise fee per year?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Top of my head, I'm guessing less than 20,000, more than 10.
Correct.
That's a guess. Is that right?
Correct, you did good.
More than 10, less than 20.
That's
That's a pinpoint.
Give or take 30.
I can get us an answer. Unless that last thing was the What's your?
Right?
What's your?
12, and the increase would put us at 15.
So-
$12.
$12.
$12,000 annual revenue from the 4%.
So you go 25%.
So we go 25% to 15,000.
So for $3,000, that does make a difference to the town.
As cash strapped as we are, philosophically, I think that we as a town government need to ask for it and state why we need it and what the needs are, without just increasing through franchise fee. I think it needs to be a more open discussion about needs and what we're paying for, rather than simply nickel and diming through franchise fees. So I'd certainly like to see the money, and I know that we need it, but I don't think this is the right way to go about it.
Is there a deadline to go ahead with the agreement?
Well, since we have a public hearing, we still have a couple more weeks before this would be put into place anyway.
Or what would you suggest as a means to get the feeling of the public?
That's a good question. A me question?
That's a good question.
I don't have those answers.
And
I'd say go ahead and try to get more money for the town.
Willie?
Well, I'm gonna suggest that you're only hitting the residents and not the snowbirds, the people who come up here in the summer. I mean, in the summer, my last Black Hills bill was $15. You're not gonna make any money off me. If you're really taxed, we're taxed, we need more money. Increase our taxes. Hit everybody, hit all the property, it's a property tax. I don't know about that part, but. I'm not sure how we get our money. I'm just planning commission.
Well, the fees don't require a vote, the tax increase does.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem to me like it's going to affect anybody adversely.
I agree with that. I mean, it's small, but you know.
I mean, if paying that extra, or participating in paying that extra $3,000 a year is the difference between you being able to live in Green Mountain Falls or not, you probably shouldn't be here anyway.
Well, and as I understand it, 5% is more in line with what neighboring communities that have Black Hill have. I don't know if that's a good argument or not, but that's what I heard.
Doesn't it equate to about $20 a year per resident?
Depends on your usage. Mine would be a lot less.
Mine would be a lot less.
So that's one less trip to McDonald's.
I'm hesitant to attach strings to it, even the perception of this is what the money will be spent on, rather than to meet general fund needs.
Because I mean, as a,
$15,000.
so that's what the total would be, 5%.
No, that's what the budget has been, for
16.
2016, that was the budget.
So about 18 something.
Yeah, 18. That's
I'm on
what
top of it. Rattle off the.
Oh, thanks for having that. So if the average citizen was to pay another $20 a year on a gas franchise fee, it does go to the general fund. Public, do you have any further comments?
I see no problem at all.
Do it.
All right, well, I will close the public hearing and we will bring this back to the board. We will reconvene the board meeting and close the public hearing at 7. So board, you've heard what's been said. It's mostly approved. What say you?
As a point of order, I move to read the ordinance by title.
Thank goodness, because it's a long ordinance. Even the title is long, and I will read that.
Second.
Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor of reading by title, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank goodness. An ordinance granting Black Hills Colorado Gas Utility Company LP doing business as Black Hills Energy, its lessees, successors, and assigns, the natural gas franchise and the authority to construct, operate, maintain, and extend a natural gas distribution plant and system, and granting the right to use the streets, alleys, and other public places within the present or future corporate limits of the town of Green Mountain Falls. The franchise is intact. It's been read and reviewed by your attorney. What we have been discussing is a change in the franchise fee from 4% to 5%. Board, do you have anything you would like to add to the discussions we've had? No one has moving forward.
Move to approve ordinance 03-2016,
At the 5%?
increasing to 5%.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. No.
Two? All right, thank you. Motion passes. Let's see, number 7 is correspondence. The first is the PC draft minutes from September 13th, 2016. And the second is an email from Michael Barrett with traffic concerns. Mr. Barrett here.
Hi.
Mr. Barrett, would you like to read your letter into the record?
Sure. I don't have it. What did I say?
You're about to find out. There you go.
Okay, this is the email, so let's see. Okay, I'll just start. Dear Mayor, Newberry trustees, and New Mountain Falls residents, I'm sending this email of correspondence as a concerned citizen regarding the vehicle speeds driven into town. I have been a full-time resident here for the last 22 years and have seen many positives occur during that time. People have come and gone, but the town has endured and prospered. So my concern here is the way people are driving on the roads inside the town. We all know that the maximum speed limit is 30 miles an hour near the highway, but drops to 25 just before near the new town hall, and is a maximum of 25 in town and most of the town. I've tried a crude test to see what 25 miles per hour looks like, and can assure you that there are folks going much, much faster. I live right across the street, and there's nowhere I live. And really, without a care in the world, it seems. I realize it's not everyone, but what will it take to get folks to slow down? I see folks not hitting the brakes until they reach Sally Bush Community Center. This is well past where I live, past the 25-mile-an-hour zone. There have been 2 accidents within 100 feet of my property in the last 3 to 4 years, and both vehicles were totaled. This is difficult to grasp in the 25-mile-an-hour zone, but it's true. On more than one occasion, I've added some homemade signs to slow down. This worked for the citizens and others that realized that they were going too fast. With others, the slow down signs did little to deter speeding at all. I myself have been nearly hit more than once while pulling in out of my driveway. Some of the drivers simply veer into the oncoming lane without even hitting the brakes and seem annoyed that they even need to acknowledge that this is a town, a place of residence. Of equal or greater concern is that town speed limits are set because it's warranted due to multiple reasons, including the roads are shared with a lane and used as pedestrian footpath, bicycle sidewalk, and has only an 8-inch wide line separating vehicles from pedestrians. Additionally, the roads have blind curves and travels right through the business district and of course the lake. The town has geese, deer, bears, foxes, and not to mention pedestrians, some of which are small children, citizens, visitors, and tourists. I've been speaking of the speeding to the last several regimes of town marshals over the years, and have had multiples of answers regarding the same issue, but at this point in time, I'm requesting that the town leaders and citizens all band together and let's see if there can be a solution to this issue as soon as possible and moving forward. Let's make it safer and more pleasant to live here. We all know the ways to gain traffic speed compliance, and the main one is unfortunately enforcement, which Nobody likes giving a speeding ticket, and nobody definitely likes receiving a speeding ticket, including me. But if I speed, I get clocked doing it, I deserve a speeding ticket, we all do. Some other stuff's missing, oh, there it is, sorry. Included below is a short list of possible solutions to motor vehicle speeding concerns. I would like to take full credit for the entire list, but I've had some help presenting it nonetheless. Number 1 is education, visibility, and enforcement. 2 is change speed limits, which is ordinance change, to 20 miles an hour through town, like the current school zone, 15 miles an hour on all side streets, 25 miles an hour coming off the west entrance of the highway. Number 3 is structural changes, which is traffic circles, roundabouts, curb and gutter with traffic calming, road humps, beautification, landscaping. In closing, I wish to be as transparent as possible with all the terms of disclosure. I also hope we can all do something in the near future regarding the vehicle traffic and speeds being driven. Green Mountain Falls is such an amazing place to live for all that choose to live here. Let's enhance the safety of the citizens, visitors, tourists, and personal property. Let's also not forget about the safety of all the wildlife as well. I welcome any comments, questions, or concerns. Very respectful. Mike Barrett.
Thank you.
We want that? It's all mixed up.
Yeah, just a comment on that. Those concerns are shared by many, and the capital improvement plan as presented by the planning commission has identified streetscaping, UMass Avenue with traffic calming as an identified capital need of the town slated for 2019. Of course, we know those dates are subject to funding, but it has been heard, it is memorialized in writing on our capital improvement plan, at least to address traffic calming.
Would you include Green Mountain Falls Road as part of that? Because it does change names right here up to the highway.
Right.
So,
Perfect.
and I think, without the police being here, it definitely changes things. But, there were many times when I would see the police sitting there, and they were like, sitting there like, hi, I'm here, slow down. And cars would, oh, there's the cop. Okay. What good does that do, And in front of my house, there's a sign that says driveways about 10 feet away from my driveway. I was hoping maybe we could put a sign up around the blind part of the curb that says driveways.
That assumes people can read.
That's right. Or that they will read. My pizza box sign worked great for a while.
That was always a good sign.
But the downtown people sued you. 30 minutes away.
Item 8 is reports. I have my list of reports here. We did have the CML District 4 meeting on September 12th. It was very well attended for Green Mountain Falls. More than 25 people. Sam Mammoth spoke about some items in front of the legislature. We got a lot of positive comments about Green Mountain Falls and about the town hall. So very good meeting. Cities and Towns potluck is this Thursday at 6:30 in the Sally Bush building. You were supposed to sign up by the 20th, but if you haven't, I'll let you slide because I'm still picking up the tables tomorrow. So sign up online or call Renee and leave a message so we know you're coming. As we talked about, Creek Week is Saturday. We're gonna clean around the creeks and the park, 9 o'clock, meet in front of the swimming pool in the parking lot there. And on September 26th, Terry Carver will be having a town hall meeting here. And if you're interested in talking to Terry socially, she is coming to the potluck. That is all I have for a report. David? Karen?
No report?
Michael, nothing? Tyler?
I did not attend PPACG or RTAs on the Regional Business Alliance DC Impact trip where we were visiting with the U.S. Department of Transportation and U.S. Commerce Department as a region, and we heard reports from our congressional delegation, our 2 senators and congressmen from both our district and Lamborn and 4 or 5 other districts in the state.
Good, thank you. Chris?
No.
Nothing, Renee? No? With that being said, we are going to recess to an executive session. I need to read the language because I don't remember what it is.
I move to enter an executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024E to determine positions relevant to matters that may be subject to negotiations, to develop strategy for negotiators and instruct the negotiators. So I'd like to invite the board as well as the administration review committee members present to that executive, and the town attorney by teleconference.
If we need him, he said he can come down.
Second.
Board, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will recess. Time is 8:18. You're welcome to stay.
I want to make sure I
Yeah, I just.